everyone, and welcome to the Deep Dive.
Yeah, welcome.
This is our very first episode.
First one.
So we are super excited to have you with us.
Excited to be here.
The idea is pretty simple, actually.
Pretty straightforward.
You send us stuff you're reading, or like your research deep dives, basically anything you're really digging into.
Anything you're obsessed with.
And we help you break it all down.
We'll kind of connect the dots, figure out the why behind it all.
Exactly, and hopefully give you some of those like aha moments.
Yeah, those light bulb moments.
Okay, so let me tell you, today's deep dive is...
a doozy.
It's a wild one, yeah.
Wow.
We're talking like Hollywood feuds, accusations, legal drama.
Oh, yeah.
The kind of stuff that like just blows up the headlines,
For sure.
Buckle up.
Because things are going to get messy.
Things are going to get messy.
So our listener sent us a ton of articles.
A mountain of articles.
A mountain.
All about this legal battle going on between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni.
Yeah, and on the surface, you've got like America's sweetheart from Gossip Girl.
Well, totally. Like
Right.
married to Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, married to Ryan Reynolds.
They're like a power couple.
Huge power couple.
But then there's Baldoni.
Right. Who's built this whole image around being, the nice guy.
Right.
Directing all those, feel-good movies.
Yeah, talking about all that positive masculinity stuff.
Exactly.
And get this, they both starred in that movie adaptation of Colleen Hoover's It Ends With Us.
Right, which is what makes this whole thing so fascinating.
Okay.
Because we're not just talking about, your typical on-set drama.
Right, or creative differences.
No.
This whole thing,
Implosion.
it happened after the movie was already a hit.
Already a smash.
Okay, so that's already weird.
Yeah.
So walk us through this.
Yeah.
Like, how did this even start? Where did things begin?
So back in January of 2023, the casting was announced.
Right.
And there was tons of excitement,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I mean, Hoover herself seemed thrilled about Lively and Baldoni in the lead roles.
Right.
Filming started in May,
Okay.
but then, like a lot of productions that year, it got hit hard by the Hollywood strikes.
Oh, right. Everything was on hold for a while.
Yeah, for a long time.
So did things pick back up in 2024?
They did. Production resumed in January of 2024.
Okay.
And it's around this time that we start to see the first hints that, something might be off.
Okay. How so?
Well, because in August 2024, even before the movie premiered, Baldoni hired a crisis management team.
Hold on. Wait a second.
Yeah.
A crisis team? Before any crisis was even public.
Yeah.
What's that about?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And what makes it even more interesting is that this wasn't just any crisis team.
Right.
These were the same people who represented Johnny Depp during all his legal stuff.
Whoa.
Hiring a team with that kind of experience that early on.
Yeah.
Well, it kind of suggests that Baldoni knew there was some serious trouble brewing behind the scenes.
Okay. That definitely changes things.
Oh, yeah.
Like how we see the rest of this timeline.
Totally.
So the premiere happens in August.
August.
And fans start noticing weird vibes.
Exactly. The premiere for It Ends With Us was on August 6th in New York City.
Okay.
Fans quickly noticed that Lively and Baldoni weren't photographed together.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And they did separate interviews.
Yeah.
And on social media,
Yeah.
they weren't even following each other. It was
Oh.
like they were intentionally avoiding each other.
Okay, so at this point, the rumor mill is like churning.
Oh, yeah.
But wasn't the movie doing really well?
It was. The film was a box office hit, made over $350 million globally.
Wow.
But this weird tension, it just lingered,
Yeah.
And then things took a turn when Lively started getting backlash for how she was promoting the film.
Oh, right.
Some of her comments were, well, let's just say they weren't exactly sensitive, considering the movie was about domestic abuse.
Yeah, telling fans to, like, wear your florals to a movie about that subject.
Yeah.
That's going to raise some eyebrows.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, this is all happening while Baldoni's got that high-profile crisis team in the background.
Right.
It starts to paint a picture of two very different approaches to dealing with whatever was happening behind the scenes.
Yeah, for sure. So was all this drama, like, before or after Lively filed her complaint?
Not quite yet.
Right.
Before things really exploded, Brandon Sklenar, who played Atlas in the film, he addressed the rumors in an Instagram post in late August.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he basically said that whatever was going on behind the scenes shouldn't take away from the film's message about women empowering themselves and choosing a better life.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so even someone in the film was picking up on the bad vibes.
Right.
But not directly addressing them.
Yeah, it seems like everyone was walking on eggshells a bit.
Yeah.
So when did Lively formally accuse Baldoni?
It wasn't until December 20th that Lively officially filed a complaint with the California Civil Rights Department.
Oh.
And her accusations were serious.
Yeah.
She alleged that Baldoni had engaged in, and I quote, invasive, unprofessional, and sexually inappropriate behavior on set,
Wow.
including unwanted kissing,
Oh, wow.
entering her dressing room while she was undressed, and making degrading comments about her age and weight.
Oh, my God.
This is heavy stuff.
Yeah, that's a lot to process.
It is.
But if Baldoni was already anticipating trouble back in August,
Right.
did he do anything to prepare for this?
That's where those text messages between his crisis manager and publicist come in.
Oh, right.
They became key pieces of evidence in Lively's complaint
Okay.
because they seemed to reveal a strategy to discredit her if she ever spoke out.
Okay, so now things are starting to connect in a really unsettling way.
Yeah.
So at this point, the allegations are public.
Right.
So what happens next?
Well, the day after Lively filed her complaint, the New York Times published an article that really dug into Baldoni's alleged PR tactics,
Oh, wow.
using those text messages as evidence.
Right.
The article, it was called "We Can Bury Anyone Inside a Hollywood Smear Machine."
Wow.
And it painted a pretty damning picture of Baldoni and his team.
Yeah.
And remember that phrase, "we can bury anyone"?
Yeah.
It was a direct quote from one of those text messages.
Oof. I bet that article caused a stir.
Oh, it did. That same day, Baldoni was dropped by his agency, WME.
Wow.
Being dropped by an agency like that is a huge deal, especially when you're facing serious allegations.
Yeah.
It suggests they don't want to be associated with you anymore, and it can make it much harder to find work in the future.
Wow. Things are escalating so fast.
Yeah.
So what about Lively? Was she getting any support publicly?
She actually received a wave of support from other Hollywood figures.
Oh, really?
Yeah, her sisterhood of the Traveling Pants co-stars released a joint statement standing with her. Colleen Hoover, the author of the book, she also spoke up, praising Lively's character.
Okay.
And several other prominent actresses, including Amber Heard, Gwyneth Paltrow, and Amy Schumer, they all publicly voiced their support for Lively.
Wow. So it sounds like the tide was turning against Baldoni pretty quickly.
Yeah, it was.
So what did he do next?
Not exactly staying quiet.
Okay.
On Christmas Eve, Baldoni's former publicist, Stephanie Jones, filed a lawsuit against him.
Whoa, what?
Yeah, claiming his PR team had conspired to smear Lively without her knowledge.
Wow.
The lawsuit alleged breach of contract and stated that Jones had turned over incriminating texts and emails to Lively's team after being subpoenaed.
Wait, so even his own PR team was turning against him.
It seems that way.
This is getting more and more dramatic.
It is. And then on December 31st, we had not one, but two major developments.
Okay.
Lively formally sued Baldoni, his studio, and his PR team in New York federal court.
Wow.
This lawsuit focused on what she claimed were further acts of retaliation and attacks against her after she participated in the New York Times story.
Right.
But that very same day,
Oh, wow.
Baldoni countersued the New York Times for a staggering $250 million.
Whoa. 2 lawsuits in one day. This is like a full-blown legal war.
You said it.
Wow.
And Baldoni's lawsuit against the Times, it accused them of defamation,
Okay.
arguing they relied too heavily on Lively's unverified story and intentionally damaged his reputation.
Right.
Basically, he claimed the article was biased and unfairly portrayed him as the villain.
So we've got Lively suing Baldoni, Baldoni suing the Times, and a whole lot of public accusations flying back and forth.
Yeah, it's a lot.
So where does it go from here?
Well, things are about to get even more personal, because just a few weeks later, on January 16th, 2025, Baldoni filed another lawsuit. And this time, he wasn't just targeting Lively.
Hold on. I need a minute to catch my breath.
I know, right?
This is a lot to take in.
This case just keeps getting wilder. And trust me, we're just scratching the surface.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Last time we left off, this legal battle between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni was really heating up. Lawsuits were flying around, and public opinion was like totally divided. Lively had accused Baldoni of sexual harassment on the set of their film, It Ends With Us, and he was now countersuing her, the New York Times, and even Ryan Reynolds.
Right, and we were just about to get into that part where Baldoni filed that massive lawsuit against Lively and Reynolds. What exactly were his claims in that lawsuit?
Okay, so this lawsuit was a big one. Baldoni was asking for at least $400 million in damages, accusing the couple of defamation, civil extortion, breach of contract, and basically orchestrating a whole smear campaign against him. He claimed they were intentionally trying to destroy his career. by hijacking the film's narrative and painting him as a predator.
$400 million. That's like an insane amount. What was his basis for that claim? Did he have any evidence to back up these accusations? That's where things get a little bit murky. Baldoni's legal team pointed to Lively's involvement in that New York Times article and her subsequent lawsuit as evidence of a coordinated attack on his reputation. They also suggested that Reynolds, as a powerful figure in Hollywood, was using his influence to boost these accusations and damage Baldoni's career prospects.
So Baldoni's basically saying that this whole thing's a carefully planned plot to take him down. But if that were true, what would Lively and Reynolds gain from doing something like that?
Well, that's the question a lot of people were asking. Some people speculated that Lively was motivated by a desire for revenge, while others thought she was trying to protect other women from experiencing similar harassment. As for Reynolds, some theorized that he was simply supporting his wife, while others saw it as him trying to protect his own brand and image.
It's interesting how this case became a Rorschach test for people's opinions on power dynamics in Hollywood, the #MeToo movement, and how the media shapes public narratives.
Absolutely. And this is where it's important to understand what a gag order is. Remember, Lively and Reynolds' lawyers had filed a motion asking the court to issue a gag order against Baldoni's lawyer, Brian Friedman.
Right. You mentioned that earlier. But I'm still not clear on what a gag order actually is. Can you explain it for our listeners who might not be familiar with the term?
Of course. Essentially, a gag order is a legal order issued by a court that prevents the people involved in a case from speaking publicly about it. The point of it is to stop the spread of potentially harmful information that could influence a jury or hurt someone's reputation.
So in this case, Lively and Reynolds were trying to silence Baldoni's lawyer. Why would they want to do that?
Their argument was that Friedman was trying to sway public opinion in Baldoni's favor by giving the press selected information and making public statements that could potentially taint a future juror. They said he was violating professional conduct standards and jeopardizing a fair trial.
That makes sense. But didn't Baldoni's team have a counter-argument to that?
They did. They argued that it was unfair to impose a gag order because Baldoni had already been defamed by the New York Times article. They said that article had cost him millions of dollars and several job opportunities. They claimed he was simply trying to defend himself and set the record straight by releasing his own evidence, like those behind-the-scenes videos and text messages.
Speaking of those videos, didn't Baldoni's team release footage from the set of It Ends With Us in an attempt to disprove Lively's claims?
Yes, in late January 2025, Baldoni's legal team released footage that showed him and Lively filming a slow dance scene for the movie. In the video, they're joking around talking about their partners and even commenting on Baldoni's nose. His team argued that this footage showed that their client was professional and respectful on set, directly contradicting Lively's allegations.
So it's like he's trying to say, see, we were just having fun, nothing bad happened.
Exactly. But Lively's team fired back, saying that the footage actually supported her claims. They pointed out that Baldoni repeatedly leans in to kiss Lively, touches her neck, and makes comments about how she smells, actions that lined up with the specific allegations she made in her lawsuit.
Hold on, wait. So both sides are using the same footage to try and prove their point? That's crazy.
It is, and it really shows just how complex it is to interpret behavior on set. What one person might see as harmless flirting, another could see as uncomfortable or even threatening context power dynamics, and individual perceptions all play a role in how these interactions are understood.
This is where things get really tricky, right? It becomes a he said, she said situation.
Yeah.
And it's tough to know who to believe, but it's clear that a lot is at stake for everyone involved.
You're right. This case went far beyond a simple disagreement or misunderstanding. Reputations and careers were at risk, and the constant media attention added another layer of pressure and complexity.
So how did this he said, she said battle play out in the court of public opinion?
Well, that's where things get even more interesting. Because as the legal battle went on, both Lively and Baldoni were using social media and carefully worded public statements to try and sway public opinion in their favor.
Interesting. It's like they were fighting two separate battles, one in the courtroom and another in the court of public opinion. So what happened next? Did either side gain an advantage?
Well, there was a significant development in the legal battle. Remember Baldoni's lawsuit against Lively and Reynolds for $400 million?
Yeah. The one where he accused them of running a smear campaign against him?
Yeah.
Whatever happened with that?
Well, that lawsuit was thrown out by the court.
Really? Why?
The judge ruled that Baldoni's claims didn't have enough evidence, and that there was no legal basis to support his accusations of defamation and extortion.
Wow, that's a huge win for Lively and Reynolds.
It was. It significantly weakened Baldoni's position in the legal battle. and gave more weight to Lively's original claims.
Okay, so Baldoni's lawsuit against Lively and Reynolds is dismissed. What about his other lawsuits? The one against the Times and Lively's initial lawsuit against him.
Those were still ongoing. And remember, there was still that issue of the gag order, which could potentially silence Baldoni's lawyer and limit his ability to defend his client publicly.
This whole situation is like a legal thriller with so many twists and turns it's hard to keep up. But we've still got more to talk about, right? We haven't even gotten to those infamous text messages between Baldoni's crisis team yet.
You're right. And those messages give a really fascinating glimpse into the inner workings of Hollywood crisis management.
Well, listeners, you won't want to miss that. Join us for part 3 of our deep dive, where we'll break down those text messages, analyze their significance, and discuss how this whole legal battle might impact everyone involved. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the deep dive. We've been untangling this crazy complex legal battle between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. You know, exploring the accusations, the lawsuits, the behind-the-scenes maneuvering, and how all of this played out in the public eye.
Yeah, it's a story that really reflects what's going on in Hollywood right now, the changing power dynamics, the increased awareness around harassment and abuse, and how social media just amplifies everything.
For sure. And in this final part of our deep dive, we're going to zero in on those infamous text messages between Baldoni's PR team. That became key evidence in this whole thing.
Right. Remember, Baldoni hired Melissa Nathan, like this high-profile crisis manager, back in August of 2024, even before the movie premiered.
Right.
And she was talking to his publicist, Jennifer Abel, about potential strategies, you know?
Okay, so paint the picture for us. What were they saying in these messages?
Well, the language was, to put it lightly, concerning. In one exchange, Nathan says to Abel, you know, when we send over documents, we can't send over the work we will or could do because that could get us in a lot of trouble. We can't write it down to him. We can't write, we will destroy her. We will go to this. We will do this.
We can bury anyone.
Hmm.
That's chilling. And this is all before Lively even made her complaint public.
Yes. And that's what made these texts so damaging for Baldoni. They made it seem like he was already expecting a scandal and planning how to discredit Lively, instead of addressing any underlying issues.
It definitely paints him in a bad light. It seems like he was taking a very proactive, maybe even aggressive approach to damage control.
Totally. And here's where public perception really comes in, even if those messages weren't meant to be malicious. The language is so harsh, it's hard not to think something was up.
Yeah, and it's interesting how these text messages, these digital breadcrumbs, ended up being such a big part of the case.
Right.
It speaks to the power of, like, documentation in this digital age.
Yeah.
And how private conversations can have very public consequences.
Exactly. It's a reminder that these days, everything can be recorded.
Right.
And even seemingly small conversations can come back to bite you.
Oh, yeah. And in this case, those text messages, along with the release of those behind-the-scenes videos, really shaped the narrative of this legal battle.
For sure. And it's fascinating how both sides tried to use those videos to their advantage. Lively argued that they proved her claims of harassment, and Baldoni said they proved he was innocent.
It really highlights how subjective interpretation can be when it comes to these kinds of allegations.
Yeah.
You know, what one person might see as harmless or playful, another person might see as intrusive or even threatening.
Totally. And that's why these cases are so hard to judge.
Yeah.
Often there's not much clear evidence.
Right.
So it comes down to weighing both sides of the story and deciding whose account is more believable.
This case also brings up some important questions about the culture in Hollywood and the power dynamics between actors, directors, and studio executives.
Absolutely. It reminds us that even in a glamorous industry like entertainment, harassment, abuse of power, and gender inequality still exist.
Yeah. And while the legal fight between Lively and Baldoni might be over, the conversation about these bigger issues is far from finished.
Right. This case started important conversations about consent, accountability, and the need for safer, more equal workplaces in Hollywood.
It shows that we all have a part to play in creating a culture where everyone feels safe, respected, and empowered to speak up against any kind of harassment or abuse.
And real progress needs more than just legal action. It needs a change in attitudes, behaviors, and how the industry works.
Well said. This deep dive has been a wild ride, full of emotions, legal twists and turns, and important discussions.
It's a story that, while focused on specific people and events, touches on bigger societal problems that we all need to be aware of and talk about.
And to our listener, Thank you so much for sending in this truly fascinating case. It's been a blast unpacking it with you.
We hope this deep dive has given you some insights,
Yeah,
sparked your curiosity,
definitely.
and encouraged you to keep digging into these crucial topics.
Thanks for tuning in to The Deep Dive. We'll be back next time with another in-depth look at something you're passionate about. Until then, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep the conversation going.